So talking about the king of groceries, Starvos. He's sitting in front of his stained glass window featuring the patron saint of hard asses. And he's just having flashbacks of stuff we've already seen, of the semi blowing past him on the road, of him finding the case. He gets the phone call about the little boy and living in field raised in the woods by wolves. Then they're supposed to meet at the parking garage at high noon. King goes to make the drop. A couple interesting things. He goes up and pulls into this, and this is a almost shot-by-shot remake of several scenes in Fargo.
Yes, which I loved.
The garage is named after Wade Gustafson.
Which is perfect because that's where Wade meets his end.
Right, that's the father-in-law of the William H. Macy character, who
Jerry
is Lundegaard.
Lundegaard, yeah.
Jerry Lundegaard's father-in-law. And the one was being blackmailed in that, and he gets shot there, killed there. Then he goes to he has this change of heart, some sort of inspiration. Decides to leave the garage, and he has a funny little back and forth with the parking lot attendant, where he's like, I was just here. And the guy's like, well, yeah, but you still got to pay $2 for 30 minutes. And he said, son, do you go to church? Then let me out of this goddamn garage because the Lord commands it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best lines in this episode.
This guy's rich. Why doesn't he just pay the $2? I mean, obviously, it's a reference to the Fargo movie.
It is, of course. This is almost the exact same thing happens with Steve Buscemi. He doesn't pay it because it's a principle thing. I'm not going to park here. I don't want to pay.
High on. He's tripping balls on Adderall.
That's also true. Yeah.
He calls up I thought it was his uncle, or I guess his brother. Maybe that's just what he calls Shemenko.
I don't think
when he's talking to Dimitri.
They're both old guys with grayish white hair, but I don't think they're the same guy.
I'm not willing to, because I didn't think they were the same guy, and then
I'm going to stake my goddamn reputation. No, I'm kidding.
My reputation as a podcaster of some small renown. I don't know. I thought it was a different guy, but then I started reading some comments and some reviews, and it seems like people thought it was the same, and I would buy that he would describe his chief of security as your uncle when dealing with Dimitri, who's kind of like a half-wit character anyway.
Sure.
Though not as half-wit as we thought after he solved the case last week and his dad just didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
Maybe simple-minded, but not dull-witted. He calls up at the cabin where he's been stashing him to protect his firstborn, as if that could put him beyond the reach of the angel of death, and saying that, hey, it's all done and over with, and head home in about an hour. So they pack up, they're heading home as the storm of the century hits, we talked about in the previous segment. I don't know. What do you want to talk about here? He goes.
First of all, I want to know, is the king ever going to sleep again? Is his sleep cycle permanently broken by this Adderall?
I don't know. I mean, eventually you got to go to sleep or you start going crazy.
Well, I think he's there, yeah.
He's well on his way.
How many days have passed?
I have no idea.
3? At least?
There's been at least 3 day-night cycles.
Wow.
So he goes and he buries the case.
Yeah.
And maybe even on the same spot of road. And he stakes it with a ice scraper, just like in the movie, just like he recovered it from. What is going through first of all, this is the middle of a fucking blizzard that 2 episodes ago, the chief was saying that it might dump a 2 feet of fresh accumulation.
Sure. That thing's going to just be buried.
That thing's just going to be buried. You're going to have to wait till the spring for it to thaw out before you can see it.
I don't think he doesn't necessarily care if anybody sees it. He certainly isn't going back there. This is to absolve himself of his sins. He thinks that these plagues are happening to him because he got this money.
Does he think the phone call is from God? Because I thought that there's a legitimate blackmail attempt here.
He might. At this point, he might actually think that phone call was from God. He's been up so long. He's so whacked out on Adderall. He might actually think that. But
definitely,
no,
I don't think he intends to find it. He's just wanting to put it all back the way it was and hope that this all goes away.
Yep.
There's a lot of problems with that approach, not just from procedurally. You can't profit from the fruits of a dishonest action and keep your empire,
yeah,
and then just give back the seed money.
Sure.
If nothing else, God's going to want his goddamn interest
Uh-huh.
and the inflation and everything else, you know?
And he takes 100% interest.
Yes, yes. But he drives back, and simultaneously we see his son and Shemenko/uncle hit a rain of fish at the tail end of this blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about this right now
Okay.
because I want to talk a lot about it in a future segment at the end of the cast. But the upshot is Shemenko dies / the uncle dies. The Schmunkle.
That's the upshot? You were waiting for that to happen?
No. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, the Schmunkle dies. Dimitri is dead.
Mm-hmm.
The king finds it and finds out that he can't avoid that last plague.
Sure. That's the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn.
A lot of people on Reddit notice that there is a Post-it note. There's a crane shot in the sky looking down as the king approaches the car, and you can see like a telephone pole broken over and laying on the ground. There is a very prominent shot of a Post-it note that has some writing on it that's too blurry to be seen. You can tell that it's Post-it note. You can tell it's got writing on it. Is this going to be something that is fodder for a future flashback? Are we going to see?
So
is that a clue basically that we're gonna come back to, or is this the prop department just fleshing out the world?
I was gonna say, if this is something we're coming back to, you have to believe that someone planned this and put the Post-it note there, and I just can't see any way that that's possible. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the fish segment, but that's what you have to assume if you think that this Post-it note is planted there. Or is going to come back in any significant fashion.
Yeah, because some people are wondering, because Lauren is so capable, did he actually have something to do with this fish storm? Like, did he have a high-speed conveyor belt, just like, spraying fish
he
onto the
had
highway?
spray tan go around to all the pet stores, collect all the fish.
Get all the rainbow trout, all the Dolly Partons.
Certainly not. Certainly not. And we will talk more about that later.
Okay. I don't think it's got to be a natural phenomenon, which is, I guess, the crux of my issue with it, which, again, we'll get to it later.